Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back after a long wait to the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Stunning Steve Barber. Joining me after this long wait is my guest co-host, my very good friend, Justin Trento from the TNC SportsTalk Throw In with Justin podcast or sportscast, that whatever you want to call it. What do you call it
Man,
anymore?
I can call it. I haven't done it in so long. I have, I guess I could say I've taken a hiatus myself. The transition. So I had to still, I was content about putting content on there. So did content, but just life was changing. Everything was changing within the family that just the time, the pursuit for an actual consistent show was just not there. So I had to change the dynamic of the channel. I guess you would say it's more of a gaming channel
Yeah,
than
yeah. I'd say
anything, just
that's
sports related. I
yeah.
got the universe, and I've even reached out to you of like how could I possibly, in theoretical version, if I was doing my own universe, how do I put this together? And but the reality part of things just isn't the same than going behind the screen with games.
Right.
But
Um yeah, so but welcome. Thank you. When I hit you up a couple of days ago and I said, hey, do you want to record a SummerSlam episode this week? Because I think I hit
um,
you up Sunday or Monday,
Monday.
and you said okay, and we set a time, and then we had to change the time, and so but things happen. I mean, we make sure that we are ready and available to go, and so worked it out, and now we are here. And I do apologize to everybody who may have been waiting for bated breath for a new armchair booking episode. That's totally on me. Um, but just haven't been in the mood. If you listen to my other podcast, the Cubicle Chat podcast, you know what I'm talking about because I actually talked a little bit about mental health last week, which
Yeah.
may explain a few things. So, but like my good friend Kyle also says, don't hold it in. Don't go through the battle alone.
Mm.
So that's something else I'll tell anybody. You know, um, don't try to fight the battles alone.
Here's what I will also say about maybe the lack of armchair booking wrestling podcast episodes. It's not like you're not wanting to get them done, but there has also been a dynamic change with what's going on with armchair booking wrestling podcast. But you know, there has to also be a mentality and the energy because I know something in relation to you and I. We don't accept nothing but the best work that we could possibly put out there.
Exactly.
So you don't want to go put a half you know
Half baked
out
show.
show.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
And even then, I mean, as much as I try, I mean, I know maybe the quality when I'm just doing it by myself. Sometimes I've actually done really well. Other times it's not been so much. And it's not necessarily the subject because someone like, man, that's a great subject. And I'll get like 5 views. But other times I'm
right,
like, yeah, it's kind of a throwaway subject. And all of a sudden I'll get like a couple of hundred views.
right.
So it's the podcaster world is very I don't want to say cyclic. I don't even know if that's the same, the right word for this, but it's a very strange world. I mean, sometimes it may
It
depend on what's
is.
going on in the world. And
Well, then you
also,
deal with
yeah,
wrestling podcasts, where it's all just professional wrestling. It's strictly, I think, more so. I would say WWE. There's more WWE conversations than
right now,
AEW
yeah,
or
yep,
just general conversations. I mean, I know what NWF is coming up here in a few weeks.
hmm
Some of their sizzles,
in
and I know you've
two
been talking about
weeks,
that.
a little over. Yeah, I mean, I will hit on that a little bit before we get into the SummerSlam conversation. The Northern Wrestling Federation, of course, they're putting on their Summer Sizzler. That's their annual fan fest. It's going to be on the 17th. It's going to actually be held at Thomas More Stadium, which is also the baseball stadium for the Florence Yaws, minor league baseball team. No,
Yeah,
they are not affiliated with any team. By the way, I don't know if you knew that.
independents. They are
They're
an
they're
independent
an
league.
independent.
Yeah.
Yep. But the fact that Summer Sizzler this year is being held in an outdoor stadium actually says something. I can tell you last year I was at the Summer Sizzler, and that was at Hits, the baseball complex in Covington.
You said that was hot. It was
Oh my
unbearable.
God, place was just roasting in there. And my kids actually both were with me. My daughter, who was 21 at the time, my son, who was 12 at the time, and we actually left. There was at least one match to go, and we left.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't leave things
Right.
early anyway. Especially a wrestling event. We left early, so I didn't even see the final match. And because I mean, it was let's just kind of pray it doesn't rain. And And I'm supposed to be interviewing some people, don't know who yet, but they've already asked me, hey, can we send some people your way? And I said, oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. They
I
should
heard
know. Yeah, go ahead.
if you so I heard something on social media a couple weeks ago that Indoor Hits, the one in Covington, that the famous place that they always perform at,
Yeah,
has been sold.
it has been sold. I don't know the full details. I do know
Are they
that
still
some.
holding venues there
Now
with
that I don't know,
NWF?
because I hope it's not a case of what happened with the Union Hall in Fairfield, Ohio, when that place all of a sudden was bought by
I
a.
heard that the baseball aspect, the batting cages, no longer there,
Right.
which I thought that was the number one. That was like the main use of Hits.
Yeah, I mean, because it was used as a baseball training complex.
Well, I
And
hope, because I like that venue. I feel like it's spacious. I could feel like if I would bring my kids around, that would be, better than going to, Ludlow. And
no, let
nothing, no disrespect to Ludlow Theater. I love it. It's a great venue, but you're cramped.
yeah, and well, in
And there's
Ludlow,
no parking. And
God, Ludlow's parking is horrible, but the energy level at Ludlow is unmatched. You cannot beat that. The energy and I think it's because it's so enclosed. It feels like Fight Club in there, to be
right,
honest with you.
exactly.
But
There's just, the sound system, just the echoes off the wall, everything
yeah,
just fits perfectly. But I'm excited for NWF. I haven't really seen any other promotions. I know some things are heating up, from what I can see on social media. I'm yet determined if I'm going out there, because I just don't want to go out there and be uncomfortable in the heat, or whatever weather. I want it nice, and maybe in the mid, high 70s, low 80s, under the shade. I'm assuming, what is this going to be in the parking lot? Is this on the baseball
I
field?
think
Like,
it's like on the field.
which is
I would
something I.
assume. Yeah, I mean, they're saying it's at the stadium. They're not saying in the stadium parking lot. They're saying
But
it's at the
then
stadium.
you got the view also, depending how far out, because you probably put it beyond the mound, so second base area. So unless
Yeah, you don't want to put a wrestling ring. Well, you know what? I
you
think you
could,
you could,
but
because the hump of the pitcher's mound would be under the ring, so
but
it wouldn't affect anything.
yeah, I just, the gone wrongs could and can always happens.
Yeah, I mean this
Uh,
is, but I don't think this is their first time. I'd have to actually hit up
yeah.
um Tasha or Roger or Wildcat and actually ask them about that. But that's such an odd question,
So that's
to
what's
ask.
intriguing me on wanting to go. I just
Yeah,
haven't decided. Okay, am I really gonna go? I believe, there's just, I go oh so often. I wish I'd gone more. I could go more, but I just,
it
there's other things I just
it
accumulate.
has been harder for me to go, like, over the past year and a half or so, and even before I left my job, which I'm still looking for a job. I actually filled out two things today, and I'm on right now. I've got a recruiter, I
Yeah.
talked to last week and the week before. Just waiting for the hiring manager to hopefully get a hold of me. And even before I left my last job, I mean, it was um becoming harder for me to go on the weekends, because
Yeah.
it got to the point, the only shows I was going to were Mount Orb, because I live here.
Mhm.
The venue is 10 minutes away from my house,
Yeah.
and Covington at Hits, and even that was not every time. Um,
Right.
because, like I've told people, it's not the drive there, it's the drive back at 10:30 at night,
Mm.
because it's a 45-minute drive one way, which means I'm not getting back to my house until 11:15 at night, and I actually have to get up the next morning, because I play bass at my church, and I
Yeah.
have to be there anytime between 8 and 8:30. So I'm still having to get up the next day, and so that part was kind of tough. I mean, although I always enjoyed the matches, um, I've been out to a Fairfield when they do it at the brewery, and
Okay.
that one's always outdoors. That one's an even further drive for me.
Mm.
Um, Ludlow, I like the atmosphere. Like I mentioned, hate the parking.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you're parking on the street, or you're trying to
And I've
hopefully.
noticed,
I mean, it's not the greatest.
I've heard very few, but I have heard there are some neighborhoods that tow vehicles.
Yeah,
If you park along the side of the street out there. So I don't know. I despise, but man, SummerSlam is here, man. It's
yeah, and it's wild. I mean, I feel like it kind of snuck up on us, because they've been talking about it for a while. Then all of a sudden, like you said, hey, wait a minute, SummerSlam's here, or as they call it, or Simon Miller calls it on What Culture, What Culture Wrestling. He refers to it as Hot WrestleMania.
I call it the hottest event of the summer because compared to a lot of other things that goes on, I mean, yeah, yes, you have the baseball classics and the All-Star game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got the Olympics this year, but SummerSlam is kind of notorious to being the biggest event for me.
It's supposed to
in
be.
summer.
It is
It's one of
supposed.
the few pay-per-views a year my family would buy growing up,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they had all those years. Remember when they had like the 6-7 year run and at Staples Center in LA?
Yeah, they
And then
did
they would
that.
come out with the hologram cups, at 7-Eleven.
Then they went to the Barclays Center
Yeah.
for I don't know how I don't think that was
It was
six,
like
but I think
5 years.
yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. Um,
I was disappointed when they went to the Barclays Center, but yeah, let me put it this way. It's one of those things for me that you look forward to, and it's like that notion of, all right, this is where it sets up, you get into the fall time outdoors, right? SummerSlam's here, it's over with. What's been very interesting to me, and I think I've even texted you this last Monday night, not earlier this week, the previous Monday, was I felt the show was smooth from start to finish for 3 hours. And I'm telling you, a 3 hour show for me felt like it was all coordinated and went perfect, for Monday Night Raw.
and
And
yeah, go ahead. I mean, well, yeah, go ahead.
you haven't, it's those little things that you haven't noticed that just pop out like that. And then you're leading into, like you said, what is the build? You look at the match card, and there's a lot of things going on both Raw and SmackDown. Yet there's only 7 matches, and you could go probably into a solid 30-minute conversation into each and every match and the meaning behind it, and have those in-depth discussions, which is honestly exciting for me. Overall, and that's why SummerSlam is fun. I thought it was a 2-day event. Maybe is that upcoming in the
No, I
next few
think they're going to
years?
start trying to um turn SummerSlam into a 2-day event because SummerSlam was supposed to be WrestleMania esque in the summer. That's the way VK that's what he wanted. And the SummerSlam, I mean, has always been a pretty big event. It's never reached the WrestleMania. Nothing will reach WrestleMania levels.
Compared to the 4 big events, it's number 4 still, unfortunately.
And it shouldn't be. That's the wild thing.
Yeah.
People have latched on to the Royal Rumble because people they like watching the Rumble match itself and now the 2 matches because they know it's intriguing. It's fun to watch. You're like, okay, who's coming out next, or who's going to throw out who? Is anybody
Did
turn into
Survivor Series come out before all this, or shortly after, or somewhere?
A lot the SummerSlam, Survivor Series,
Survivor
and
Series,
the
sorry.
Rumble, they all started roughly about the same time, and I don't
Okay.
remember which one was first.
I've always felt Survivor Series was
Actually, I think Survivor Series might have been
one.
first. Well, let me think.
I could Google it here while you're talking.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. I think SummerSlam. SummerSlam was probably first because the first
1987 was Survivor Series. That's the first ever one.
Okay. That 1987 is also the same year of WrestleMania 3. So Survivor, you said that was Survivor Series?
Yes.
Okay.
I got 1988 for SummerSlam.
Okay. Now it is starting to make sense then. Because Savage won the world title at
1988 for the Rumble.
Oh, so the Rumble was before SummerSlam.
Yes. Now I'm not saying that they didn't have. I'm not sure if they've had like Royal Rumble, thought prod like a Royal Rumble match like in your house or something like that.
The first Royal Rumble type match was actually at like a house show. It was kind of an experiment. It was not
in the 1985 for WrestleMania.
Yeah, 85 was WrestleMania because I definitely remember when that one started. But Pat Patterson actually came up with the concept of the Rumble,
Yeah.
and it was not meant to be a pay-per-view, but they were like, hey, this match that we did at that one thing, it actually worked out pretty good. Now let's put it on something. And they put it on USA for free
Yeah.
because it was bumped up against something in the, or NWA, WCW. Sorry, that's old school for me.
Yeah.
But
WCCW, right? And
no, WCCW is world class down in
yeah.
Texas. WCW is world championship, right? But they either way, Vince was pulling some kind of underhanded stuff to get the viewers. But it was not meant to be a pay-per-view, but the fans liked it so much, they just started making an annual thing. It didn't really start meaning anything though until '92, because that was when Flair won the title at the Rumble.
Yeah.
And then after that, they said whoever wins the Rumble gets a title shot. Now they're doing it with the Elimination Chamber, or sometimes the title is up for grabs in the Elimination Chamber. Now, of course, you have the Money in the Bank, and then they're starting to do it for other things where you get a title shot somewhere, which I do like. So now it is actually building these storylines, like you said. And SummerSlam, there for a little bit, SummerSlam had actually kind of fallen a little bit, and you can blame that on the 1993 SummerSlam. That's the one where Lex Luger beat Yokozuna by countout. The people celebrated like he had just single-handedly won, like Desert Storm or something. I mean, they had streamers and everything else, and they're like, he still didn't win the title. 94, I believe, was the Undertaker versus Undertaker. 95, the main event was Diesel and Mabel.
And the Undertaker versus the Undertaker doesn't get a lot of conversation or talked about a lot, in my opinion. I mean,
because it was stupid.
Well,
I mean,
okay, you know
blunt.
what? I agree,
Yeah.
but I still think to be able to pull off, it wasn't like Taker was hiding from a mask. You literally had another Undertaker that identically looked like him.
Brian Lee.
Yeah. Which wasn't he his cousin?
No, they were really good friends.
Okay.
Because they knew each other when
Through
Undertaker,
the BSK when they were creating that, right?
Well, the BSK, I mean, that's never been an official thing. That's been
right. That's behind
I'm pretty sure Brian Lee is part of that, but Taker knew Brian Lee when Taker was in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Obviously he wasn't Undertaker. In fact, this was before he was Mean Mark Callis. But they knew each other then. They became friends, and that's also where Undertaker Mark Calloway met Glenn Jacobs, was in Knoxville at Smoky Mountain. And so that's why Taker actually, Hogan's known for pulling people into WWF at the time. Taker did the same thing, but Taker didn't do it saying, hook my buddy up. Taker did it like, hey, take a look at this guy.
Yeah.
And, and then when they needed that whole, I don't know who came up with the Taker versus Taker, but I mean, it makes sense.
If you think about Doink, you had Doink the Clown, you had the multiple Doink the Clowns, you had multiple Canes, you even had multiple Sin Caras, right? Like all of that was hidden behind makeup and mask and all that stuff to have an actual Taker versus Taker, and they actually looked alike. I think that's still something to at least say, hey, we were able to see it from start to finish, and although it wasn't the greatest hit, obviously,
no,
it's still
I mean, and those were just down. Those were honestly down years anyway.
Yeah.
Because 95, a lot of people consider 95 to be one of the worst years in wrestling, not just because of what was going on in WWF and WCW and some of the other, because those were really the two big companies at the time. A lot of the other ones that folded. Smoky Mountain was still there, but it was slowly circling the drain because it was, territory still. It was the last territory that was created, and so it was kind of the last territory that ended up going out of business. But that was a bad year anyway. 96, the SummerSlam was actually pretty decent.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels is now the world champion. Now granted, he went against Vader for the that was the title match, and that's the one where Shawn this is when he was starting to get in his I'm gonna show my rear end type thing, just to put it, kind of bluntly, but family friendly at the same time. He jumped off the top rope and just kicked Vader in his head and said, move, because he was supposed to drop an elbow, but Vader wasn't positioned right. But SummerSlam was supposed to be, and it has been in the past. The 92 SummerSlam, of course, that's the one in Wembley. That's considered one of the greatest ones ever. atmosphere wise. I mean, the crowd wise, the main event was one of the just a still a match that has still stood the test of time when you watch it. And it's even more amazing when you think that David Boy Smith was high on crack. True story. So that was Bret Hart basically wrestling, himself in a way, because he had to position Davey Boy Smith for everything they were doing.
And the thing is, it was a pull off. Like it still hit and it still succeeded. And to be able to do that just kind of elevates, what Bret Hart could do as a professional athlete.
Yeah.
Entertainer. I mean, and that, I hear that all the time. It's like, you should be able to go in there and wrestle a broomstick and have a 5-star match.
Yeah. Now, he didn't wrestle a broomstick. He wrestled a crackhead, and he still had a 5-star
which one would have been better at the time, but
his brother-in-law, who had spent the entire night with his other brother-in-law smoking crack.
Yeah.
Because it was him and Jim Neidhart, and David went in there. Oh, I don't remember anything, Bret. And
so you got WrestleMania, Survivor Series, the Rumble, which would probably be number 2 technically, and then SummerSlam. And if I could just share with you something that personally for me over the last a decade, at least over a decade, I don't feel like I've ever really been this excited to see a SummerSlam PLE for the past like 10, 15 years. If in reference, and I'm not saying that the WWE is been bad doing this, but I think when it comes down from post WrestleMania to SummerSlam, they take it PLE by PLE by PLE, and then whatever they get there, time for SummerSlam is what they put together. They may focus on 1, maybe 2, specific storylines that they want to tell at SummerSlam, but this has been almost as if you're watching the road to WrestleMania from the beginning of January to WrestleMania. And this is something I have not seen happen in a long time in the WWE. You know what I'm saying? And then this lead up to this match card that we're going to talk here, it's, the conversations have not been, I mean, listen, WWE over the last several years have definitely had good matches at SummerSlam and has some good storylines at SummerSlam, right? But nothing compared to what we're seeing this year, where you actually want to be engaged in watching every Raw and every SmackDown. And to point this out, every PLE between WrestleMania and SummerSlam has been involvement in something to do with SummerSlam. You talk about the King and Queen tournament, where the winners get title matches at SummerSlam, to the Money in the Bank, where Drew failed, but then at the hands of CM Punk. Tiffany Stratton could cash in her title contract, against either Bayley or Nia Jax on Saturday. So every PLE leading up from WrestleMania has led up to SummerSlam, which I don't feel we have seen that in quite some time, which also brings just another level of energy.
Well, the big difference between this year, and I know that what I'm going to say actually happened before the event last year, but they were still kind of
the transition,
the Paul
Levesque era.
Yeah. And because VKM is no longer there, this is the first time in a very, very, very long time that there's not been a McMahon involved in the wrestling business. Now, granted, Paul Levesque, he's married into the McMahon family, but either way, you could tell, because a lot of people may have thought VKM is going to be pulling some strings, in the background, but he's not. And I think because WWE was bought out by Endeavor, and they're the ones going, no, they're not going to tolerate somebody who now, has even more legal troubles. Yeah. It's something new coming out every week. I can't even keep up with it, and I don't even want to talk about it.
For me, I just push him. But I push him under the bridge. It's we're moving forward, and you know what? Paul has done a great communicating to everybody. I love the press conference because you kind of get a little bit of what's coming up without getting any spoilers. And you're really getting, all right, we just had a great PLE. Here's the details a little bit behind it. I just think those formats kind of help all type of viewers when you're watching WWE.
And the long-term storytelling, because Paul Levesque grew up a wrestling fan. Paul
Yeah.
Levesque started in the business as a wrestler. He had some crappy gimmicks, like all wrestlers tend to do. I mean, Terra Rising, and then he was Jean-Paul Levesque from France, and I don't think he could probably speak a word of French unless, well, he may have lived near the Canadian border. He may have known some, French Canadians,
All the
possibly.
international stuff that he's doing now, I'm
Yeah,
sure he could speak a couple different
I'm pretty
languages.
sure. But when he started moving up, and I don't think you could have ever told the young Paul Levesque when he's first starting wrestling. By the way, one day you're going to be probably one of the most powerful people in the entire industry. He probably looked at you like, there's no way,
Yeah.
that could be a goal, but there's no way. But now he is. And now he's controlling the things. He's doing the things he wanted to do to begin with. And he actually proved that when he was running NXT.
Yeah.
NXT, I mean, it was a developmental territory, and
Vince kept holding him back.
but Vince was holding it back. But
exactly.
Levesque, I mean, he was doing the stuff in NXT, and he was making a good product.
Yeah.
And he was training them to wrestlers, and he was developing, getting them ready, and they come up to the main roster, and Vince, it was like, Vince, I don't know what to do with them. It's like
WrestleMania was doing the 2 nights, right? And before WrestleMania night 1, you'd have NXT Stand and Deliver. And I could tell you that they put on a better show half the time than WrestleMania night 1. And I'm like, how can you beat this? I wouldn't watch NXT often, but then I would tune into NXT Stand and Deliver because it's all WrestleMania weekend. And I'm like, how in the world is WrestleMania going to beat this?
That was even before. They didn't go to 2 nights until 2020, because in 2020 was COVID, and that was out of necessity. But then they liked the format, the 2 nights. They could do a lot more instead of having one 5-hour long show, because that was
the night before, though.
Yeah. And that was a big complaint, was, why are you having WrestleMania go till 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern time? And so people, I mean, it was a valid complaint, because I was complaining. But then when they had to do 2 nights, they're like, you know what? We could actually split it into 2 3 or 4 hour shows instead of one 5-6 hour show, where they're running way past kids' bedtimes, and people had to go to school the next day. I do like how they've moved all the events to Saturdays now instead of Sunday nights, because that was also, to me, a very smart move. But with the NXT, like you said, they had the show, all the major, the pay-per-views, PLEs. They had an NXT show on the Saturday night before to kind of showcase, here's what NXT is doing. Because the first time I saw Shinsuke Nakamura and Bobby Roode was actually it was in Texas, and I don't remember which.
WrestleMania 39.
No, it wasn't 39. No, this would have had to been like around WrestleMania 32, maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. I'm sorry.
Because Shinsuke was defending the title, but then he ended up, and he was going to lose it because he was going to be going up to the main roster, but he ended up blowing his knee out in the match. And, so his move up to the main roster ended up getting delayed. But I just remember their entrances, and their entrances, both of them, because Bobby Roode, I still have his entrance music on my phone. I've actually had it as my ringtone. That one. And I want to say, was that the same one where I first saw Aleister Black? Yeah. And his theme music was actually being done by Code Orange, the band. They actually came out, and they were doing like the theme music, but when he came out, they actually played his song. And I'm like, okay, like you said, I didn't really watch a lot of NXT back then. Dwaylen did. He would always fill me in on stuff going on. But I'm like, man, I need to start watching this. And that's what Levesque was doing. That was his doing. Then when he had his health scare, because, I mean, he almost died, because his heart rate got down to something like 30, 40 beats a minute, and it was still going down even further. I mean, they had to rush him. I mean, if it had been like 5 more minutes, he probably would have been dead. He's actually said that. I don't know if you saw the interview after, and he did the interview. It was like on a regular talk show. It wasn't like on a wrestling talk show. It was like on a regular, like a sports, like talk show on ESPN. And he got pretty emotional talking about it, but they had to put a defib defibrillator, automatic defibrillator in his heart. And
Yeah.
so that's when he went out, left his boots in the ring. I mean, he's done. But during his time away for a legitimate health scare, VKM, Bruce Pritchard took over NXT. And oh my Lord, first thing they did, they changed the color scheme from the black and gold to it was some kind of rainbow looking stuff. I mean, it looked like 1985, like teal green and things. It's like, whoa, what is that? And they changed up some of the formats and it was horrible. I mean, it was like night and day. Now, Paul Levesque has taken over the creative for the main rosters. Shawn Michaels is actually doing NXT.
Yeah.
And Shawn Michaels and Paul Levesque, I mean, they're best friends. And so Shawn Michaels is actually going to have that same, the same mentality that Paul Levesque does. That's why we're getting such good cards, because Paul Levesque believes in long-term storytelling. Because I was even looking at all the matches, and if my phone would stop locking up on me, if I was going, okay, if I had to really put this out on a timeline, how long are all these? Because like you said, it used to be they would have monthly PLEs every month. Well, the storylines were, as soon as the last one ended, okay, the very next Raw, the very next night, they would start the storyline for the next one.
You may get one or two storylines continuing, but you also deal with injuries. I get that. But yeah, I mean, what Drew and CM Punk has been going on since the Royal Rumble. Yeah. 6 months. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And, we haven't seen that since the early or the mid, like 2008, 2010 type stuff. Before they combined the rosters, 15 years ago. Cody and Solo, that's been built up since post WrestleMania. That's still Cody versus the Bloodline. That's still the conversation still today, in a sense. Damian Gunther and Nia and Bailey. That's been
since the King and Queen of the Ring matches. So
Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley's been since beginning of the year?
Sort of. Well, yeah, because
since August of last year. No, because since whenever Liv got hurt, they made that into a storyline.
Liv got hurt, and then Rhea got hurt because of Liv. And those were legitimate injuries. I mean, but
Liv got hurt because of Rhea.
And they attributed it to the other ones, and even though it wasn't on purpose, but it's like, you know what? You take stuff that happens, you build it into a story if you can. There are some lines you don't cross, but I don't want to get into all that because VKM was also known for crossing lines that he should have not.
So I think this leads to another point that I like to also make before we officially get down to the matches and predictions here. And that is what we're seeing on Raw and SmackDown specifically. I think I haven't seen this, the type of energy and the type of what's the best word to say this? I haven't seen the type of hunger from these talents and the performances in the ring since the beginning of the Ruthless Aggression era. I mean, this is another thing Paul does great, is building talent. That's something I think the WWE universe, and the fan base can argue for the past decade that we lack to build the talent. And now under Paul, we've been building younger talent. We're getting used to, like the Carmelo Hayes, the Braun Breakers, the Ilja Dragunov, those people that are going to lead the WWE in the next 10 years. We're seeing them, and we're seeing the hunger and the urge of wanting the spotlight in that storyline. I mean, Chad Gable is a prime example, which I'm surprised they didn't put that into a storyline at SummerSlam this year. But, there's just talent that you probably would think of, just push them to the side. And they're all being utilized on both shows, which I think is another incredible thing that you could just honestly say that WWE overall is turning in, is moving in the right direction. I hope that this does continue, because what's the road to Survivor Series looking like? You know what I'm saying? Within the next 3 months. You think about this, in about a month, aren't they doing Clash at the Castle or something like that again?
They just had Clash at the Castle.
Not Clash at the Castle, excuse me. Aren't they having another pay-per-view or PLE?
I mean, they're still doing them like every month on roughly. Bash in Berlin.
Bash in Berlin,
Bash in Berlin.
which I know that was something we sat here at a round table with Randy back before WrestleMania, and
We did.
we
That's
talked
right.
about a possible Gunther spotlight, and and to see all this story, progress this far. But anyways, it's just take a moment to appreciate where we're at in the
Yeah.
WWE, because it's come a long way from
Oh,
potentially a company who could have been flipped upside down in the last 4 years. And
so let's go ahead and get into the matches. And Wikipedia, I know whoever edits these things for Wikipedia, they put the matches in as they are announced. And so we really don't know the actual order, but I'm
yeah,
quite sure the World Heavyweight Championship match is not going to be the first match. But then again, I have no way of guessing what the first match
can
is
I
going to
ask you
be.
a question? I
What's
have
up?
7 matches on this card.
Mhm.
Wasn't the women's tag team championship supposed to be defended, or is that this Friday?
Maybe it's this Friday because it's not mentioned on the card. And there's no, they used to be called dark matches, but no, there's no
Or kickoff shows, right?
kickoff show match. There's not one listed. That doesn't mean they're not going to have one. They don't always list those. But you know what? I'm just going to go in the order that they have them.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Damian Priest defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Gunther. Like you said, Gunther earned the title shot, being King of the Ring. I like how they're doing that. King of the
Yeah.
Ring. Oh, King of the Ring used to be its own pay per view. But it's hard. It's actually hard on the wrestlers to have to wrestle 3, 4 times a night, especially in like such a short time frame. So I like how they spread it out. And yeah, but me personally, I think, and I'm not going to say how, because some of these, and I'll admit, I kind of took the coward's way out on a couple of these. I think Damian Priest is going to retain the title. Um, Now that how is he going to beat Gunther? Gunther's only lost one match like in the past, 3 years, and that was at WrestleMania when he dropped the IC title to Sami Zayn. But we all kind of saw that coming.
Mm-hmm.
He shattered the Honky Tonk Man's record. Thank God. He also broke the record for the longest cumulative days as champion. Now he did beat, I think, Pedro Morales to do that. Pedro Morales is a great wrestler. You know, but now that they're not going to stop with Gunther. They're not going to say, "Well, you just lost the IC title." No, Gunther is one of those people. Not that he's the cool heel; he's just the good heel. People get behind and cheer him,
Yeah.
even though when they started chanting, "You deserve it," he's like, "Well, thank you, but what I deserve is none of your business." I was like, "Oh, that dude!" I was like, "Yeah, he's awesome." I love Gunther as a heel, you
Yeah.
know. But that's why I don't think they're going to put the title on him yet. But it could be a disqualification. I mean, because we've been waiting for the Judgment Day, or just Judgment Day. I think I would just call them Judgment Day. That's just me. We've been waiting for them to kind of. They've been hinting at it for the longest time anyway that he's going to break away, but
Yeah.
he could actually have. They could actually cost him the match on paper, but not the title. That makes sense. What do
Yeah.
you think? What do you think? What's your prediction?
This is a sticky match, to be honest. It's hard to predict because you have the Bash at Berlin coming up, right?
Right.
It's hard to see Gunther not going into Berlin, Germany, not holding that championship, especially since he doesn't have the IC title no more. But at the same time, you're right. Prior to WrestleMania, I thought the Judgment Day was gonna kind of split a little bit,
Right.
right? But and they still show signs. You got cracks in the Shield. Dominic and Rhea's doing their thing. Finn Balor and Carlito, which somehow fit. Don't ask me how, but JD McDonough, they're kind of all just pieces that aren't really meshing together no more. Even though do they still have the tag team titles?
I
I
believe so.
believe.
Yes.
So, as
Actually,
much as I still want to see the
yeah, you do.
Judgment Day thrive, I felt like their creation was during a time frame where the focus point was the bloodline, right? On
Right.
SmackDown. And so they were never really given that proper domination push that they should have had. And I don't, when it comes down to Damian Priest, if he should continue to hold the title, I don't feel like it's done him justice enough to drop the title just yet. He hasn't done enough. Not saying that he hasn't. He has been. There's been. I'm going to use that term that I just texted you about a couple weeks ago, but there's been a lot of botches involvement in his matches that
Yes.
just feels like he hasn't had the run that he should be having. And it's not directly to anybody specifically, but I just feel like with that, you give him a little bit more time. I mean, the fans are getting behind Damian Priest. You could almost feel like, why take the title off of a face now? Especially at this time. I gotta see Priest holding on, but I don't know how much longer, because I know people want Gunther to be champion.
Yes.
It's that perfect piece.
And as long as the chase doesn't go too long, having somebody chase the title is not a bad thing. Having a heel chase it, even though he is being cheered, you usually don't see a heel chasing it for that long.
But Gunther hasn't chased the title since he won the King of the Ring tournament. He's actually disappeared for the last 2 months and just popped up in the picture a few weeks ago because the highlight was Money in the Bank, right? And what was happening in Money in the Bank. So he focused on that, and then which was great. We don't need Gunther in the story right now, which is great storytelling. But, it's kind of hard to see Damian dropped the title, although, like I said, Bash at Berlin, things may change coming up here in a month, because Bash at Berlin's August 31st. And I know we had to get to SummerSlam, but we're 1 month away.
Yeah, because that's only 28 days after SummerSlam. Now, granted, Bash at Berlin's in Germany. Gunther's Austrian. I don't think they're not going to travel to Berlin from Austria. It's not like it's a very far traveling distance. So next match they have listed is Nia Jax against Bayley for Bayley's WWE Women's Championship. I'll let you give your guess first, and I'll give mine.
Oh gosh. I feel, here's my problem with Bayley, and don't get me, I don't want to discredit her title run yet. I just feel like she hasn't been paired up with the right opponents to make her title run special. And so then my question is, and maybe I'm not acclimated to seeing what Bayley can do in the ring. I'm not, but to see Nia Jax and Bayley, I just see two different people, completely two different, that just kind of don't mix together in a sense. Tiffany Stratton, on the other hand, she's kind of that third party that, is she, she's a heel, correct?
Yes, but people are cheering her, and for
because
good
they kind of
reason.
want her to cash in before Nia Jax can, right? I mean,
because Tiffany Stratton, I'll be honest with you. She's amazing in the ring. She's extremely athletic.
Yeah.
When she first came out, I'm like, okay, who's the annoying ditzy blonde that they have coming out?
NXT, she was like the Barbie doll, daddy,
something,
princess,
and I'm like,
everything.
And it's hard for me to take a gimmick like that seriously.
Exactly.
But then she started, with her moves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, the Barbie girl's she's got some talent. And then when she does that triple jump moonsault, and then I looked her up, and guess what? Her background is gymnastics.
Yeah.
So that I'm like, that makes sense. She actually has a legitimate athletic background. It doesn't matter if she's got some store-bought boobs or not. She is very, very good in the ring.
Yeah.
And she has it's Tiffy time, and she has that annoying, on purpose. And she pulls it off really, really well, because she knows with that look, you have to be annoying, but she
that
is
sassy
really,
high school girl,
yeah, like like, I don't have to do that. I'm pretty. That was a girl at a school I was at one time in the military, blonde, married to a command sergeant major in the Army. She was Air Force. She was a command. There was a little bit of an age gap, but she didn't have to do anything because she's pretty. But yeah,
I look at this picture, and why would Nia Jax win?
I don't, just like you were saying, I'm going for Nia Jax. I'm pulling for Nia Jax. Well, I'm predicting Nia Jax to win. I actually like Nia Jax, but Bailey, they've both been kind of given a second chance in a way, because remember
Yeah.
Bailey, she was the hugger. She was like that white meat,
Yeah.
all gee whiz shucks baby face. And then she came out with a pickaxe and destroyed the Bailey buddies. And she went like full on heel, but then she got hurt. Like,
Yeah.
and then she came back with Damage Control. Damage Control, it was a good faction, but then they were kind of pushing her out.
Yeah.
So you saw the where she was slowly turning back to face,
Hmm.
but I don't think people are getting behind her as much. Now people do like her, but they're
Yeah.
not getting behind her as much as what they did when she was, the OG with shucks Bailey, which she might be more comfortable, and I'm talking like Pam Martinez may be more comfortable doing this role. Maybe she's like, that the other
She likes
characters,
the role that she's doing now, from
yeah,
my understanding,
right. And
because
and
people take her seriously.
yeah, and she is really, really good in the ring, and she's earned that. It's just like you said. I mean, her title reign this time really hasn't, and it may be because she has not had the right opponent. Nia Jax may be that right opponent, but I think Nia Jax, it's her
So
turn. It's her time to have the
here's the
title.
problem that I see with this match here. Bailey, for one, she's never been taken seriously in WWE at all. She's kind of was the fourth person in the Four Horsewomen in
Yeah,
NXT. She was the outsider. She was the last one to be called up, if you think about it, in the WWE. She was never given a major title push when Charlotte, Sasha, and Becky Lynch got those title runs, what, 5, 6 years ago, right? When they all got called up. And I mean, and now that's her time. And I'm wondering if that time has come and gone for her, to be honest. Now, Nia Jax, I feel like when you think about Nia Jax, and I like her, I think there's not many bigger opponents that can be athletic as she is in the ring, and to be able to use that athleticism, and do a lot of these things that she does. It's You don't see often. It's kind of a hard to kind of put them in a serious competitive storytelling. But what bothers me about Nia Jax is that I guess we get you just can't help but think about those stories a few years ago about Becky Lynch's broken nose and all that.
right.
She was even being accused of not being able to control herself in the ring, or she was doing cheap shots type stuff. Um, so it's kind of hard, how authentic is she? Now she's trying to use that to her advantage still. I think she's still a badass woman in the ring. But it's still kind of hard. I'm not fully there behind her. Tiffany, I think, is a great opponent, but then you ask yourself, is Saturday the time to cash in that title? Because you don't, I feel like you kind of wasted the Drew McIntyre, the men's cash in, right?
Yes.
Um, so is that the same with Tiffany? And is it time for her to hold that title? I'm fine with Tiffany holding it. I'm fine with Nia Jax holding it. I'm fine with Bailey holding it. But I feel like I feel like Tiffany could hold it longer. I feel like she can accidentally cost Nia Jax the title and maybe trying to help, and it backfires. Because that's what the past couple weeks on SmackDown, they've been kind of teaming up with each other. And Tiffany's kind of been sneaking in behind, letting Nia do the damage, and then almost cashing in her title on Bailey, but then backs off and says, no, I'm just playing around. So I think maybe Bailey holds on to the title. Tiffany tries to help Nia in some way, and then comes back and ends up biting her in the butt.
I mean, I just think it is Nia because, like you said, she was basically let go from WWE because she was hurting people in the ring. She was deemed as being unsafe in the ring. Now she's come back, and I haven't really seen that, which means that she probably had to
Right.
work on it, and because
But have you sold that to the general audience? Because for me, I'm not 100% all right, move forward from it yet.
I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, because
I'm
Nia
not saying that
Jax,
she's bad in the ring. I believe that she's fixed herself and she's a better athlete now, and she understands the process now better than she did before she got released. I just, I have to get over the past before I can move forward, and I'm not over the past quite yet.
I mean, it is a hard one because I mean, it really would say the past. It wasn't that long ago. It was just a couple of years. So, but I'm saying Jax is winning it. you're saying Bailey's
Bailey.
retaining. So,
Yeah.
Next one, Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. I really wish they would anyway. Um, I'll go ahead and go first in this one. I'm thinking Liv Morgan is retaining. It's not the time yet for Rhea Ripley's going to eventually get the title back.
Yes.
This Saturday is not going to be that time because she just returned.
Yeah.
You agree?
I agree, but here's what I'm thinking. I would love it, and this is just me thinking out loud. I know we don't see this often, and I don't think maybe the WWE would be open to pursuing this, and it could be a potential feud, but I don't think, Rhea, okay, so I guess here's a question for you. Dom gets involved. He has to be involved some way.
He'll get involved at some point. Yeah.
He has to pick a side, and I think hopefully he chooses Liv's side. Because there's been obviously rumors, and I'm going to keep the marriage rumors until they become reality, that somebody could be returning to be by Rhea's side, and then we can continue this feud into Survivor Series or further down the road, which I will be fine with. You're on the same page with me so far?
Yep.
So I think Dom gets involved, maybe even cost Rhea Ripley a match. Rhea Ripley is, for me, in-ring performance-wise, for what WWE has made her out to be, kind of a similar vision. I'm going to compare her to China. She has it in the ring-wise, not outside the ring and all that stuff, but inside the ring. Could you possibly see a Dominic versus Rhea in a one-on-one match? I know it's rare to see it in WWE, but
Rhea's, she could, but she's never really struck. China only wanted to wrestle men.
Right.
Rhea's not really been like that. Now, Rhea, she has that
could
kind
handle
of
herself
mentality
in the ring if she was put up with a man. I'm not saying just put her up with Drew McIntyre. It's it's part of the story, You cost me an title opportunity, my rematch, and you're playing some shady stuff behind my back, and I want you in the ring. Potentially, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I wouldn't mind seeing it. But Liv Morgan retains. I think this gives the women's roster on on Raw a new variety of matches and feuds, and Rhea can still be at the top tier level, right, performing, and not have to have the title. And I think she's already there.
And not only that, but this actually gives Liv a chance to redeem herself, because remember when she won the title a couple years ago, Money in the Bank cash in, and then they booked her horribly.
Yeah.
They had her, tapping out when the referee didn't see her tapping out. Then they had her doing some other things, and it didn't make her look like a champion, especially a face champion. It made her look like a heel type champion.
And she's better a heel right now.
And she is really good as a heel. But now, she's more dominant as a heel. But yeah, Liv Morgan retains. Eventually, Rhea's going to get the title back. But this is, okay, so I was saying earlier, this is where the chase actually makes sense. So it'll probably be like at least a 3-match series, but we'll see.
And but here's my thing.
Go ahead.
The thing is with Rhea, on SmackDown, how many top stars do you already have? Because Bianca's up there. Bianca's already kind of the pivot point on SmackDown, right? Who else do you have right there? Because Bayley, I don't think Bayley's there. When Charlotte comes back, she could be there. I think by default, Jade Cargill's up there.
She is, but she's showing herself to be very sloppy in the ring, which is a shame.
So you look on SmackDown, Rhea's up there, Becky's up there. You have those list of people who can make somebody without having a title present, which is great because, Rhea, when she first came up, she needed to earn her way through. Even without the title, she's earned her way through. Yes, they're going to cross paths at some time, but I'm not in a rush to seeing that. And I don't think people need to be a rush to seeing that. Yes, it's great putting in a back pocket. Here's my thing. Rhea is locked in the WWE. As long as they keep her involved and keep her revolving, I don't think she's going anywhere, in my opinion, right? Now, if they just tarnish her, career and put her down in the lower cards and not have her in any storylines, things may change. But she's kind of always there, just like Becky Lynch, right? So, in a sense, so like I said, you give this opportunity. We just, talked about this at the beginning of the program. The hunger for this opportunity. A lot of these younger females that's coming up on the roster, they need that title to be painted as an opportunity to make a name for themselves on the main roster.
A title match.
Match, yes, a
Yes.
match.
I say those because that was something VKM he was notorious for doing, was putting a title on somebody to push them. It's like, no, you need the opposite. You push
Right.
them to make, you need the person to make the title worthy, not the title to make the person worthy.
Queen Zelina or Zelina Vega. I keep referring her as Queen Zelina. Queen Zelina Vega
Zelina Vega, yeah.
has been getting opportunities at Liv Morgan, and she's actually been more in the ring this year in the last 3 months than she has been in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that's good, right? Because you go back around to saying, what is the time frame to determine if a person or a persona is going to work in the ring or not, and you got to give them that opportunity. Zelina Vega has been given that opportunity. It's another female that works in the title picture. So you just keep on building it. I know the women's roster is depth, and so I just think you don't need Rhea quite involved, right? She's still that stepping stone, but Liv Morgan gives more of a reality match figure, in person, compared size by size than Rhea Ripley does.
Well, I will say this, and I know this is a prediction that's going to probably be months away. They're going to have a 3-match series. The third match, Dominic is going to be in a cage suspended above the ring. Just throwing it out there now. We haven't seen that in a while. I think the last time they had that was Chris Jericho when he was the Sexy Pinata. That's what he referred to himself as.
Paul Ellering in NXT, one of the pay-per-views, I believe, he was suspended up in the ring in the cage. I believe I don't
Paul
remember.
Yeah,
it was
AOP
versus someone else, and that's the last time I remember that happening.
Well, Paul Ellering, he was actually in a cage. He was above the ring in a cage in one of the most famous wrestling matches of all time. Wildfire Tommy Rich and Buzz Sawyer, in Atlanta. And the top of the cage actually had a top on it, or it had a roof. Paul Ellering was in a cage on top of that because he was Buzz Sawyer's manager at the time. So moving on, next match, and honestly, this will probably be the main event match, but they have it listed in this order on Wikipedia. Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa, singles match for the undisputed WWE Championship. Go.
I will not. Cody Rhodes wins.
Yes, I have Cody retains, but
I do not see. I think you could hold off a bit longer before Roman Reigns returns.
I don't see Solo Sikoa. Honestly, he's good in the ring, but all of a sudden he didn't start talking until Roman disappeared,
right?
And he kind of threw himself in as the tribal chief. And it was after Jay left the bloodline. Jimmy has kind of left the bloodline. Solo Sikoa, he was 4th on the totem pole. Now all of a sudden he's over it all, and he's brought in, of course, Haku's kid, or no, the Barbarian. It is a Haku's 2 boys and the Barbarian son, or the 2 of the Barbarian sons.
Jacob fought 2.
I forgot about him.
And then the Tamatonga and Tonga, whatever.
And Tongaloa.
Tongaloa, sorry.
I thought one of them was Barbarian son, but yeah, 2
hey,
two of Haku or Ming's.
This is where things just got interesting, and I love the fact that the Bloodlines took in this direction. Okay, you obviously all the matches that can be set up if and when Roman Reigns returns and the Usos return. They've been they started this, they come back, and obviously, but this family is so big in the independents, right? Like there's so many. They're not the only. Those 4 people are not the only 4 people down there. I think there's still several more that WWE is kind of interested in taking a look at. Yeah. So just imagine, you talk about a civil war. Just imagine extending this story. And what's great is that you're just telling another saga. Solo Sikoa, to me, has always been the I'm gonna say underdog, but he's always been underlooked in the bloodline. He kind of just came in. Um, he was actually having a decent NXT run, and then he kind of came in to fill in as a bodyguard for Roman Reigns.
Like an enforcer.
Exactly. Was not supposed to speak. He wasn't supposed to say nothing, but he also didn't have a whole lot of time in the ring yet. So as he continues to develop, he's already getting television time, which is great. But now you're kind of seeing, well, these awkward situations like he's in now against Cody, who has been doing this in front of the spotlight for the last, 15, 20 years. And compared to Solo, who's now getting that spotlight that he should have been pushed a little longer, a little while ago, last year, I would say.
Right. And I just don't see Solo, even as good as what he is, I don't think he's ready for like that title run. He has not held any other titles. IC, US, not even a tag team title.
But you could only blame the work of the Bloodline story, which was focused around Roman Reigns and the Usos. It wasn't focused around Solo. So, like I say, he didn't get he didn't get the matches, he didn't get the title run, or else he could have picked up the US title or the IC title down the road. And now you put him as he's claiming to be the tribal chief. You're assuming that maybe somebody else behind closed doors is pulling the strings, but maybe he's doing it for somebody. Hinting maybe Dwayne Johnson. It's either gonna work or it's going to fail. And I think there's enough established in the bloodline that you need this new turn, whether we see him in the ring or not. This is that. You talk about chances. Cody Rhodes is that guy. Whether you win or lose, if you could go toe to toe and have a, I'm gonna say, what's the minimum star match that you should have in order to get over, or for anybody.
For anybody to get over, you need to have at least a 3-star match.
You think Solo could give you? Could Solo give you a 3-star match Saturday?
Depending on his opponent, I don't think he against Cody. Yes, he could have that because Cody will make it that.
But it's not just going to be Cody; it's going to be the bloodline, and you're probably going to see
the stories. The stories surrounding them actually make it better than what it deserves to be. But the bloodline right now. Jacob Fatu is Solo Sikoa's cousin in real life.
Yes.
But Tongaloa and Tamatanga, they're brothers in real life. They are actually not related, to them. They aren't Samoan, right. They're Tongan.
No. Right.
That's the thing. I mean, because Ming or Haku or King Tonga, his first name is actually Tonga. He's from Tonga. So is the Barbarian. I thought the Barbarian actually had like a son that was somehow getting involved too, but I don't know because the Barbarian's also another tough one, like legit tough one. You wouldn't want to mess with, but I could see them. I could see the two brothers breaking off. Although, which one was it when they were doing the whole acknowledge thing? And I think it was the night Paul Heyman, didn't sleep for like 3 days on purpose to make himself look haggard. Paul Heyman is a national treasure. He's
on
by the way.
Another level.
I just want to say that. But he said,
I just get inducted to the Hall of Fame again when this is all said and done.
Oh, absolutely. And, but when they were, one of them sounded like one of the characters in, I think it was Two Towers in the Lord of the Rings, the White Hand of Saruman acknowledge. That's what it sounded like to me. And I couldn't help but laugh. But I also want to say this looks like a Wish.com version of the Bloodline, and these guys are all tough. Don't get me wrong, but they didn't, you have, the two brothers plus one other one. And then the tribal chief. That's exactly what they had before. You had the two brothers, plus one more. Now he also just happened to be their brother, and Roman Reigns, who was also their cousin,
right?
In real life. And this one just it doesn't. They're vicious. Now
it's not going to hit the same.
Yeah,
I think what hurts, and the thing is, and I here's what I like. I like how they don't have titles on them right now.
Right.
I don't think that if you're going to create a name for yourself, and don't get me wrong, this is going to be much harder for them to get over without titles. But this story is beyond. Remember, this is the bloodline story that starts back with Roman Reigns wanting to bring the family together. Mm-hmm. And whether you consider Tamatanga and Tongaloa, brothers or cousins,
they're brothers to each other, but they're not. actually
they're
related
still
to the.
affiliated
Yes.
to the bloodline, just like Dwayne The Rock Johnson, which is more of an outer relative to the story.
Mm-hmm.
He's involved. And the purpose is that you have this, you're creating your own tribe, right? Amongst each other. It feels like I'm going to the Cincinnati Zoo and I'm seeing which tribe of gorillas are out there today because they have different setups,
Yeah.
you know? So, but this is, you're keeping the bloodline story alive and going while the Usos, who has been in the spotlight with Roman Reigns for the past, what, 2.5 years,
Something
three
like that.
years,
Yeah.
4 years, it feels like, they're going to actually get the time off. You have time to develop them. You don't need to rush this story. And it's just a way to continue it because you know the story is not completed yet. It's not done. And it doesn't need to be done. You have so much, like I said, family related uh, athletes down there in the independents that,
Mm-hmm.
you slowly, you could bring in and create this massive civil war. You're talking about this dynasty. This is going to dynasty. It's going to be, when this is all said and done, this is going to be one big dynasty
It
among this
definitely has.
family.
It definitely has the potential.
And you gotta just. I know some of it doesn't make sense, but sometimes some things don't have to make sense. But to be entertaining, and that's what it is. It's entertaining. You should tune into Friday night just to see what carnage they bring next and see who else. Now, I wish they go a little bit more than putting someone through a table every week, but
Yeah, that gets kind of old after a while. Honestly,
still,
I get tired of going through the announcers tables. Um, I
throw
get
them
tired
through
of
the
seeing that.
stage or
Yeah, I mean, I get tired of seeing the flippity flip over the top rope and everybody who just
yeah.
happens to be standing in that same spot right in front of the ramp. I get tired of seeing that spot, but the only thing I'll say, hopefully, the bloodline 4 is a good number.
Right.
Do not, if you add another person, let them be a manager. Do not let them be the talent because next thing you know, you don't want it to be like the NWO, which became just bloated.
Yeah.
Like over half the roster was in the NWO, and it's like, well, this doesn't make any sense.
But here's
But
again, it's under Paul Levesque.
right.
I got to give him the credit.
He will hold it back. He won't let it grow too
Exactly.
big.
So,
So
anyways, I'm saying Cody Rhodes. I do feel like you just have to have this version of the bloodline interfere. I'm remaining optimistic about the future of the bloodline. Like I said, there's so much stuff that you could do, and I love the fact that there are. It's like Roman Reigns is the Luke Skywalker saga, right? In Star Wars. Now you're trying to tell a different saga that's not going to get as much attention or, as great of a magnitude as, Roman Reigns, but they're still there. They're still
yeah.
part of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like the Mandalorian
Um,
series almost through it, but
Speaking of which, apparently there's a new Mandalorian series out season out right now. I didn't even know it.
shoot.
But
Anyways,
I think Cody wins by pinfall, but it's not a clean win because you got to remember RKO and KO are going to be
I have
there.
one concern. Can I just
Yeah.
express this one
Before
concern
before
for
we
you?
move on, one more concern.
Cody Rhodes for a moment. I love his title run. He finally accomplished the story. I feel like they're struggling to paint him and his title run picture
They are
because
I
they
agree.
have to relate him back to the. Now, listen, I mean, hopefully The Rock is involved somewhere down the road. Obviously, you may see another Cody or Roman part 3 down the road, but this storyline has honestly been a bit depressing to me. Not saying that the matches haven't been good and the defenses haven't been adequate. I just feel like you could have done so much better so far. And it's like maybe the story was bigger than what it needed to be because you build them up so high where you could not lose. You had the fans boycott basically WWE and to give them the match that they wanted. And so, yeah, he finally got there. What's next? And I just have yet to see what's next for Cody. Feels like he's just holding it until the next thing
That's where
comes.
they're trying to build the monsters. To like you actually think Cody could lose the title at this
But they built
particular,
him so big.
but
Who can really give him a
that's why
challenge?
you have to have somebody really, really vicious. Like, and that's what I said. They're brutal and vicious now. I mean, because the
Yeah,
Usos could be, but the Usos also they did it a
they
little bit
were
different.
at one point
Yeah, but
before
I
the
mean,
bloodline.
but these guys seem like they're just flat out savage. Like they
Yeah,
just don't care. They're not in it for titles. They're in it for blood. So,
you need it.
but
I'm okay with it.
we will move on though. Next match listed: Logan Paul LA Knight singles match for the WWE United States Championship.
About time.
About time. I believe LA Knight takes it. I think he gets the U.S. title because Logan Paul. Yes, Logan Paul has actually been a good wrestler. He's been a good champion. They're going to be close to his hometown because I think I believe he actually is from Cleveland.
He is from Cleveland,
but that doesn't mean they're going to cheer him just because he's from Cleveland. Because Logan Paul is kind of an idiot, and his social media presence has not been a positive one. Even though they do have their fans are not Cleveland. Him and Jake Paul. By the way, Mike Tyson is going to beat the brakes off of Jake Paul. I just want to throw that in there. But Logan Paul, he's been pushing his drink out. However, that drink they just discovered has some chemicals in it. I don't know if you saw that.
No disrespect to Prime. I have never tasted. I probably never will. But are they finally going to take it off the ring mat?
Not if he's a sponsor.
Is that a sponsor for the next year?
I honestly, I don't know. If he's a sponsor, that's part of the contract. They have to have it on the mat.
How much money do you think he had to pay to put that on the ring mat? Because I have never seen it.
Or either that, or he said, "Hey, he could have said, I won't charge you anything. Just let me be a champion." But he is good in the ring. I've given Logan Paul credit since the first time I saw him in the ring. I was like, oh, he's actually put in the work, and he gets it. He understands the game. He doesn't make it necessarily all about him, and he battles through injuries. Like that legitimate injury he had in Saudi Arabia, and you didn't know about it until they announced like 2 days later. By the way, Logan Paul is going to be out for like the next 6 months because he tore something in the match that he kept going in. So he's gotten respect to people. But people are tired of seeing LA Knight lose in the matches. They want to see LA Knight win, and I think it's time. It's time.
I got two questions. I think here, one is, has LA Knight surpassed his fame?
If they don't put the title on him this time,
even if they put the title on him Saturday,
if they put the title on him, that's going to give him a boost. If he does not get the title, then it's going to start. People are going to be going, why am I?
I'm there. I'm ready just to be like I love LA Knight, but if he doesn't win, even if he wins, I don't know how I'm going to feel. He's going to win. I'm predicting he's going to win, but because he wins, I felt like, what else can he do with him? Now, you know what? He is up there in the age. Maybe it's time to start challenging like the Carmelo Hayes and the Andrade, Andrade, and then all those talents, but. I just don't. It's another thing, just like Cody Rhodes. How many storylines can you see LA Knight in that makes sense to really keep him in? In that loop.
Well, if he's got a title, if you're a title holder in WWE, you're always going to be involved. Should be always involved in some kind of story because somebody is going to be coming after your title. Somebody's going to want your title.
Logan Paul, and this, and listen, and this is. I do respect Logan Paul for what he could do in the ring. And I do understand, listen, maybe WWE didn't really have much for Logan and the United States Championship for a while. And that's why, but he was just as absent as Roman Reigns.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to decredit Logan. It devalues the U.S. title to me.
Which they just got it back up again, just like the IC title. Do you realize they went for like over a year without defending the IC title on a pay-per-view?
Yeah, it's
and then when they put it on Gunther.
And I'm fine if you don't even. Here's my thing: you can, if it appears on a show, even if the champion competes every 2 or 3 weeks, and maybe puts it up every other month, I'm fine with. I can compromise, but to just see Logan Paul MIA, and I don't follow him on social media, and there's a lot of people there's a lot of kids that do not have social media yet. We're talking about the early, like 7, 8, 9-year-olds, right? And so the thing is, for me, Logan Paul, it wasn't like he was on television. He literally just popped back in the picture less than a month ago. Right? Post Money in the Bank.
Right.
Like you left, like he didn't, it wasn't like you made an appearance. It didn't like you. And the thing is that, excuse me, he's doing everything on his channels. He's not doing anything on the WWE channels. So it's not like he's being recognized other than the Prime bottles that are being sponsored at ringside on both Raw and SmackDown. So
Right.
as much as I love him and I appreciate what he's given us, and I hope maybe it's not the end of what we see when he loses, because I don't mind seeing him again at the right time. It's just I need to see that U.S. title. It's time for that title to be in the picture because, Cody Rhodes is, he's holding down the fort. We need some help.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. We do need some help down there.
You need the secondary title because the secondary titles, it used to be the secondary title was automatically the number one contender for the world title. That's the way it was set up back, from the first time a secondary title was created until all of a sudden WWE stopped treating it like that. And then they stopped treating the secondary titles like they were even worth anything anyway. But now they're back up doing, the IC title is now elevated in status. Now the US title, they need to bring it back up as well. And I think LA Knight could do that. Logan Paul, because Logan Paul, he has so many other things going on because he does have a legitimate, an actual business, Prime. Yeah. He's got that he's up and running. He's got his social media stuff that he actually makes money off of, like pretty good money for what I understand, him and his goofy brother both. And so was he the right person to put the title on to begin with? Maybe. I mean, it definitely brought it,
Well, Rey Mysterio was hurt at the time. And I think we were still, last year was still such a transition period.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I felt, and I think a lot of people was calling this, was that LA Knight was the one kind of figuratively that can get the title off of Logan. Right? There's really no one else that you could talk about that kind of meets that level. Right now. So it only makes sense, but you didn't do that at Mania. So you have to do it now. And so listen, I'm fine with what they've done so far, but under this new Paul Levesque era, like I said, this is a time where the U.S. title can help a young talent. Like I said, a Carmelo Hayes, who I think is kind of struggling to find his whereabouts on SmackDown lately.
That's where you could fall into the trap of, like I said earlier, you don't put the title on somebody to push them. You push them to help the title.
Exactly. Elevate. But see, Carmelo's a great athlete.
I could see Carmelo Hayes being the U.S. title holder, though. I think he's very legit.
I'm not saying put the title on him. I'm just saying person to contend.
Yes, absolutely, because you put him in the title matches to show what he can do.
Yeah.
And to see how people react. And it's like, okay.
Andrade fits the picture. He kind of needs to be in a championship picture.
Yes. I actually saw something the other day they were actually talking about Andrade, and it's like he's kind of floundered ever since he returned.
They just haven't had the right opportunity for him.
Which means this is a topic for another day. Is the roster too bloated right now? Do they have too many people? That's actually happened in the past. But we both say we both say LA Knight wins. So next match, IC title. Speaking of which, Intercontinental title, Sami Zayn defending against Braun Breaker. And I do believe, let's see,
Ilja Dragunov.
You. This is you. You go first. What do you think is going to happen?
So how a triple threat match becomes because you kind of want to hide the fact that one person needs to retain the title, but you can't really have him beat the opponent. So you throw someone else in there just to give the mix.
This doesn't have Dragunov listed.
I have it. I have him listed.
Really?
Yeah. I'll double check.
That's going to throw my next year. Now they had a match on Raw on the July 22nd.
Remember, he had a vacate. Okay, and so pardon me because I did not also see this. Let me double check.
This one a few times because when it comes to wrestling,
okay, so this is my source right here. Let me just double check here and just make sure that I'm reading this correctly. This was last updated. Okay, this was from CBS Sports. Last updated on July 30th at 2:20 p.m.
Wow, somebody has not updated the Wikipedia article then.
So
which is actually kind of amazing because normally wrestling stuff that gets updated like pretty quickly on Wikipedia.
Intercontinental Championship: Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker versus Ilja Dragunov. It's so Breaker earned his shot after redemption after defeating Dragunov at #1 contender match on the July 22nd episode of Raw. But I believe, and this is where maybe does WWE website has the match card?
You know what?
And I'm sorry, this is what I'm reading, and I don't want to get it incorrectly. So
I'm going to go look right now. I'm still staring at the screen, but
I'm trying
let
to
me see.
okay, so you know what? I'm sorry, I stand corrected. It
oh,
looks like just Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, that's what I read, and that's when it was last updated. So maybe unless WWE.com did not change anything, I don't.
which I doubt. I mean, things, so they're usually pretty good at updating that as well.
Okay, so we'll just treat it as one-on-one. Man, I like Braun. He's a force to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Sammy is a good IC champion, but and he's definitely defended it quite well.
Yeah.
Is it time for Braun though? When Braun debuted in NXT, they quickly put the title on him. And I think there was a lot of high hopes that within less than 3 months, he would have been on the main roster. I think they're going to, I think it took an extra year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's because they had to develop him. They didn't quite know what they wanted to do with him. I don't think WWE has a plan for him yet. And I don't think putting that IC title on him to do so, without an actual plan would work. But if you look at the opponents that are in the IC title category, Bronson Reed, Dragunov, Zayn, those are people that I think Braun could go toe to toe with. I think would be incredible matches.
Chad Gable's another one, by the way.
Chad Gable.
Yep.
Especially how he's kind of come through.
He's kind of floating like all over the place right now with the Wyatt Six and things like that. So
when you really thought they took him out, you brought him right back in. I think, I think the Creed brothers work perfectly with them. It reminds me a little bit because I've been saying this, that Chad Gable reminds me a lot like Kurt Angle and the skins that he's been putting lately.
Yeah.
So what faction was the Angle team? I believe Team Angle with what was it? Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that the Creed brothers are those, but I mean that's a good good fraction. Anyways, I can see Braun Breaker winning it. I'm choosing Braun Breaker at like an 80% winning chance.
Real side note, real quick. Do you know what happened 28 years ago today?
Was it today?
It was today.
Did he win?
Where Kurt Angle won
with a broken neck.
With the broken freaking neck. And that is a true thing. He actually won it with a broken neck.
And he actually wrestled the entire tournament with a broken neck.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think he qualified for the tournament breaking his neck during the match.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was either, in order to recover, he would have missed the time. So he chose to do the injections, go through it, and then.
And won.
Yeah, won.
And beat a man who had not lost a match in forever. Had not even had a point scored on him.
Yeah.
In forever.
Yeah. And the only reason why he won was because he stalled.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only.
You know what? A winning match is a winning match.
Hey, I'll take it for Team USA, and good luck to everyone out there in the Olympics this year. But
anyway, so
Braun Breaker, 80% chance of winning.
Yep, I'm agreeing because I do like Sammy. When Sammy first got the title, and I predicted this for WrestleMania, when I said Sammy's going to the title, it's time, it's WrestleMania. This is when you have those big moments, and he's going to beat the undefeatable Gunther, who has not lost a match in forever and the longest reigning. But I said Sammy's going to win it, but Sammy's not going to be a long time title holder. He's going to be a more or less not not transitional holder like he held it for 2 weeks and then lost it. No, it's going to be a few months. And well, guess what? It's been a few months now. And Braun Breaker is somebody who looks unbeatable. I mean, he really does. I mean,
He looks like the next Gunther. I can't wait to see Gunther
yeah.
and Braun together. Like,
and by the way, Braun Breaker, he's a Steiner.
yeah,
He's got the pedigree right there.
He's being compared to Goldberg.
Yes, I mean his dad and his uncle are both, like they're Rick and Scott Steiner. Rick Steiner is his dad. Scott Steiner is his uncle.
I don't think there's anything bad to say about Rick.
Yeah, I mean, no, Scott Steiner will. Well, no, I mean, well, they both got some things that people say about them. They weren't exactly the nicest in the locker room. They were known as kind of locker room bullies, but Braun Breaker, I mean, he looks like, he could be unstoppable. Now you put him against Bronson Reed, that's a match I want to watch.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So when it come down to Sammy's defense, I guess this is the same thing that you could say about Cody Rhodes, is that you build a storyline to get to the highest peak. And these are like stories that you're going to remember for years on end, right? Where, Cody finally beats Roman Reigns. That's the story that you'll be talking and telling your grandchildren about. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens beating the Usos in the main event of WrestleMania is a storytelling that's not peak of the WWE in all stories, right? Then Sami Zayn goes on the next year and beats the unbeatable in Gunther. How can you carry a title matching that criteria? You just got done having a 6-star match against Gunther, finally beating him, making it so emotional, that you brought family, you families involved. The second best thing was Chad Gable, but you couldn't expect Sammy to maintain that 6-star level, if you know what I mean, throughout his entire reign. And I just think that this is the best that you're going to get with Braun Breaker at SummerSlam. That's besides Gable and besides Gunther. And, the thing is that when you look beyond SummerSlam, this is what, 4-star at best, maybe, right? So how can you maintain that 4-star level with other opponents? And I just don't quite see that. And that's why I'm intrigued to see him Braun take it and see what he can do.
Well, because Sammy, I mean, I think I'm not going to say it's a consolation prize, not that at all, but I mean, Sami Zayn went from 2 years ago, he did the job for Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah.
The very next year, he's in one of the main events along with Kevin Owens. And the next year, he's putting on, like you said, this 6-star match with Gunther, which shows Sami Zayn, the kind of work he can do in the ring. I mean, he is absolutely great. Now, I like the way Simon Mercer puts it. He needs to stop doing the Blue Thunder Bomb. Has it ever won a match? No. But it's still a great move to watch, especially when he does it to somebody as big as Braun Breaker. But I just don't, by Sammy holding the title now, putting on good matches, it creates a credible champion for Braun Breaker to beat. It's not just, well, you lucked out against Gunther.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, so because you don't want when you beat somebody, whether it's for a title or just winning a match, you want that person to actually be a credible opponent. And this actually adds that. So it'll add to Braun Breaker. He showed he could beat Sammy. He didn't do it at the last PLE, but he could have done it. Sammy managed to squeak out the win. And so
this is where Sammy and his size, what he's done throughout his career so far has always kind of refrained him to a mid-card personnel, which kind of holds him back at this point, because you asked the question, well, for Braun, this is a stepping stone, right? There's much bigger and better opponents that he can face that he hasn't gotten to yet. So it benefits him a lot. But for Sammy wise, he loses his title. Where does he go? What's next for him? Does he go back to the bloodline and help fight this feud alongside Roman? I mean, even though I don't
Sammy, if anything, he's going to go back to help Kevin Owens.
But and how far is that going to take him? I mean, Kevin Owens.
Nobody wants to see them go against each other again.
Right. I don't want to see that either.
Right. But, even though, I mean, they had really good matches, but people like them better as a team.
Yeah.
But
even that last title run, when they knocked it off, it's like, great, you beat the Usos. you didn't really maintain all that. I mean, they didn't have great matches defending it, but the tag team division wasn't all that. But I just you dropped the title, and I just worry that his popularity is going to go down a bit when it comes down to having involvement matches. Now, maybe he has a feud with the White Six, but I just don't know.
Well, he could have also gotten to the point now where he doesn't need a title to be over. There's some who actually hit that level where, they don't need a title to be over. And Sammy, I mean, people love Sammy.
He doesn't need a title to be over, but does he needs that storyline to keep him over.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't go backwards. I've seen it happen.
It hurts to go backwards. I mean, people can go backwards, but it can hurt you. Unless
Aren't you telling me Sammy's not going backwards right now, in a sense? From facing the face of the company to beating Gunther, which is kind of one step back, to now, I'm predicting dropping the title at SummerSlam.
I mean, I would say it was almost a lateral move, not winning the match against Roman Reigns, but then winning a match against Gunther, who was, even though it's a different title, Gunther still looked unbeatable. I don't know, but I mean, I think Braun Breaker is going to take it. You say 80%, I'll go with that. But we'll hit the last match, the only non-title match on here. Drew McIntyre and CM Punk with Seth Rollins as the special guest referee. Anytime they have a special guest referee, especially something like this, there's going to be some kind of shenanigans. That's what I'm going to call on this one. Is Drew McIntyre is going to beat CM Punk with help from Seth Rollins, and that's going to kick off Punk and Rollins because they already have like legitimate beef anyway.
Yeah.
They're professionals in the ring, but Rollins does not like, Seth Rollins or Colby Lopez does not like Phil Brooks.
Right.
So, by the way, that's CM Punk's real name for those who don't know. Yeah, he does not like him. They've actually stated that, like in actual shoot interviews, he's like, but they maintain professionalism in the ring. But that's my call. They're going to push that. They've been wanting to push the Rollins Punk feud. Then Punk got hurt.
So this goes back. First of all, let's just admire that the WWE has, for the first time, and I don't know how, for the first time since I think Triple H refereed like a decade ago. This is the first time they've had a stipulation match of like something other than a steel cage or a Hell in a Cell. You don't really see stipulations to matches anymore. And I'm actually surprised they're able to pull this off because it does make sense.
I mean, especially more like gimmick matches. So I kind of stipulate, but when you start talking about like cage matches, Hell in a Cell, that's more of a gimmick match.
Okay, what, 2 out of 3?
2 out of 3.
I Quit match. Well, okay, so they just had an I Quit match, which was also rare. But when do you normally see WWE put a stipulation on a feud or on a match? Now, like I said, given that this is warranted, this is a type of feud where it's warranted. It's just not, so I'm soaking. It's a good thing. I'm saying this as a positive reinforcement that, them taking this to another level, just instead of just having a singles match, I think could help benefit this feud because this has been going on for 6 months, right? This all started where Drew McIntyre will, I guess you could say, accidentally, injured CM Punk
in Chicago.
Put him on the shelf for WrestleMania, so Punk returned the favor, and then did it again. So now Punk has the sabotage moment twice, not just once. Well, the first one was more of just a distraction, and then it turned out to be, an actual cost of a match. I told you a couple weeks back that a lot of this, I saw something that shared the similarity of this feud with the feud that Bret Hart had.
Mm-hmm.
Was it right? Now, you always make your twists and turns to make it unique and special, but I'm looking back at this feud over the last 3 months, and I wish that they would have sat on Drew McIntyre quitting a little bit longer. In my
Yeah.
opinion, I would have waited kind of leading up to it where then Punk finds himself in something and Drew McIntyre, returns that favor. You know what I'm saying? Like, but yeah, it's gonna be suck. Here's what we're gonna learn on Saturday. How much of a business person has CM Punk grown to be since his AEW days?
Right.
Because
Which was just a year ago, by the way.
right. The conversation was from Survivor Series. I remember the press conference. It's a business move, and as long as it remains business professional, then it's going to work. Cody Rhodes even said something along the line as he's here to make us money. Yeah. And if people are here, whether you like him or hate him, if he's here to make us money, I want to hear what he has to say. And so as long as it doesn't become personal and they don't make it about themselves in their ring, they make it about the business, I'm all for it. And that means CM Punk has to take one for the team and lose for the bigger picture, which I think a lot of people will love to see Punk and Rollins, then I'm all for it, right? Survivor Series is right around the corner. So I'm in favor of how you predict it. Something happens, Seth Rollins gets involved physically in the way. Does that mean Seth Rollins is cleared to wrestle? Because he just got done going through an ACL, MCL repair, right?
If he is in there as a referee, then he should. If he's cleared to be in the ring as a referee, then he's cleared to wrestle because referees also take bumps, and that's one of the things. That's one of the things that Randy, friend Rescue Randy, that he's talked to me about. But Randy is a very good wrestling mind, by the way. Because he's actually done, some of the training with NWF. He also decided then, wrestling's not his thing. He decided, he's gonna, he did not want to become a wrestler. But he was telling me the referees and the managers also have to learn how to take bumps, which means if they're going to be in the ring, they have to be cleared, to be in the ring. And a lot of that's because of insurance purposes,
but
liability purposes.
You keep Seth Rollins, even though he dropped the title, he never left star power, as the face of Raw, so to speak. He's given other people slots to excel at that, but he's still one of those higher ups on the Raw brand. So to keep him involved, I think has been impressive. This is kind of, if you look back, this may be one of the stories of the year we look back on, going, with how this unfolds. So, is this your main event match though of SummerSlam? Do you think?
No, this is not the main event. Cody and Bloodline, that's always going to be the main event. It just happens to be the order they have it listed.
I think Damian and Gunther could be a main event.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. They're not going to have that one.
If you're gonna have the Bloodline have any involvement in Cody Rhodes' match, have that up front. I mean, and more like have Drew and CM Punk like second or third to last card, on the spotlight. But I would put Damian. I feel like Damian and Gunther, especially if you saw the chop battles that Gunther gave Finn Balor, and those bruises that he posted all over social media. I feel like that could be and this would be a time where Damian could really benefit if he's going to retain. Go out there and have the spotlight on him and have a one killer of a match where Gunther could go with you toe to toe.
Yep. I think it's going to be a good card. By the way, I want to give a shout out to the Dad World Order. They are going to be there in person. They've announced that they bought tickets as soon as it was announced. But I do have to go ahead and wrap up the show. Thank you so much, Justin, for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have you on. And you always have the open invite. So we will check in the predictions. Maybe you can come back next week and we'll do a post SummerSlam.
Let's do it. Yeah.
So, but all right. And so until we can actually speak again, my friend, I'm just going to say, everybody have a good day and God bless.